Contracts were signed. Schedules were cleared. The writer's room was supposed to start this month. That's the co-creator and showrunner of Wonder Man describing a Disney Plus series that Disney and Marvel had just canceled. On August 2nd, 2026, he said it on TikTok. No publicist, no studio statement, just a phone. In his telling, the first episode of Season 2 already written, production booked for early next year. And a short list of fan theories he wanted killed before they hardened into accepted fact, because according to Guest, a studio approved this show and then decided, a few months later, that it never made sense. Disney and Marvel have not publicly explained why. They still haven't. This is what a cancellation costs when every single person involved has already said yes and cleared the year to prove it. Wonder Man premiered on Disney Plus on January 27th, 2026, 8 episodes, a strange, melancholy comedy about Hollywood, and 91% from critics. 618 million minutes viewed in premiere week, number 8 on Nielsen's streaming chart. Respectable, not enormous. It never returned to that top 10, and 2 months later, on March 23rd, Disney Plus announced a second season anyway. Then in late July, Variety reported exclusively that the renewal had been reversed. 4 months after the yes, a no. No press release from the studio, no farewell post, a trade story, and after that, nothing at all. Which is usually where a story like this ends. The trades move on inside of a day. The showrunner thanks the crew, thanks the fans, says nothing a publicist hasn't cleared, and then goes quiet for a year. Andrew Guest opened TikTok and filmed himself talking. Just want to say I've been listening, he begins. I appreciate you all. I feel how you all feel, and I just want to clear up what I can here. On Instagram, he'd kept it to 2 lines. Marvel has canceled Wonder Man. So proud of the show we made. But the TikTok is the one that mattered. The only detailed account of this cancellation that anyone inside it has given. So hold it correctly. This is his telling. Not an agreed set of facts. One man on camera saying what he knows. Start with the stages, because with Wonder Man, the stages are the entire story. Guest says contracts were signed, not options, not handshake deals, not we're excited to keep going, signed contracts. Guest says schedules were cleared, meaning people had blocked out months and told other jobs no. Guest says the writer's room was supposed to start this month, August, the same month he filmed the video. Guest says production was scheduled to begin early next year. Stages, builds, a crew list, a shooting schedule taking shape. And Guest says he had already written the first episode of Season 2 himself before the room ever opened. Even though the writer's room hadn't started, he says, I had written the first episode of Season 2. And we had an outline for where the season would go, and everyone felt really good about it. Now translate all of that out of industry shorthand and into plain English, because the distance between 2 of those stages is enormous. A renewal announcement is a press release. It costs a studio a paragraph, a graphic, and a good afternoon. A signed writer contract is a start date, a rate, and a person who has rearranged an entire year around it. By Guest's account, Wonder Man had gone past the press release entirely and was living inside the second thing. In June, director Destin Daniel Cretton was asked whether Season 2 would shoot this year. I hope so, he said. We'll leave it at that. 10 days after that interview ran, the reversal broke. Reporting since indicates the writer's room Guest describes was never convened at all. Television hires in blocks, and the blocks do not overlap. A staff writer works one room at a time. Saying yes to August means saying no to every other August. Department heads, costume, production design, camera, construction commit months ahead because that is simply how the calendar works. A line producer who cleared early next year for Wonder Man is a line producer who already turned other work down. There's a word for that in television. Holding. You hold a window open and you protect it. And you protect it by saying no. No to the pilot, no to the feature, no to the other room that wanted you in September. Guest says those windows were held for a room that was supposed to open this month, August. Trade reporting since the cancellation indicates the room never actually convened, and the writing staff was released to look for other work. Released in August, which is after the staffing season for the year has largely come and gone. A show that dies at the pitch stage costs a studio a lunch and costs a writer a few weeks of hope. A show that dies where Guest says this one died costs a year of somebody's working life. That's the difference these stages measure. Which brings us to why Guest went on TikTok at all. Because in the silence, the internet had already built its own explanations. Theory 1, this is a stunt. A fake out. A cancellation staged now so it can be dramatically reversed later. Guess answer is one flat line. This is not a marketing stunt. Theory 2, the show is being upgraded, killed on streaming so the character can come back as a film. Guess says there is no movie in the works. Not shelved, not quietly reassigned, not there. Theory 3 was the most forgiving one because it let everybody off the hook. A scheduling problem. Destin Daniel Cretton is a busy director with a full calendar. That's an easy thing to blame, and it blames nobody.
Guess close that door too. Cretton's schedule, he says, and nobody else's schedule was the issue.
Fans reached for all three for one simple reason. Nobody with authority had given them a better one. A vacuum never stays empty. It fills with whatever the audience can imagine, usually something more flattering than the truth. And then Guest said, the thing that actually explains the shape of this story. Production was supposed to begin early next year, he says, and a decision was made internally between Disney and Marvel that this didn't make sense for them. Even though, in his words, a few months ago it did. Read that as a sentence about time, because that's what it is. 2 moments, and one answer that flipped between them. Nothing about the show changed in between. The scripts didn't get worse, the cast didn't walk, Season 1 didn't retroactively stop existing. What changed, in his telling, was the calculation on the other side of the wall. Disney Plus announced the renewal on March 23rd. Variety reported the reversal in late July. 4 months, gate to gate. In that same window, Disney changed chief executives. Josh the 500th and Tia Morrow formally took over on March 18th, 5 days before the renewal was announced. Nobody has drawn a line between those two things. Not Disney, not Guest. The dates simply sit next to each other. But it does expose the mismatch. Television moves in years, rooms, builds, shoots, post. A slate decision can move in an afternoon. Guest also says numbers aren't shared with him, so even the showrunner is reading the outcome, not the reasoning. And here's what makes this land harder for the people who made it. Wonder Man had already been killed once. In 2023, the writers and actors' strike stopped the shoot with roughly half the season already in the can. Guest has said the show came off the board entirely, that it could have become a tax write-off. The Batgirl ending, it didn't happen, and he credits people inside Marvel who fought to bring it back and finish it. That's the only reason Season 1 exists. He's also said early test screenings went badly. Audiences were confused. He braced for notes that would reshape the whole thing. Instead, it landed in January with a 91% critics score and an Emmy nomination for Yahya Abdul-Mateen II. The other number is less kind. 618 million minutes in premiere week, 8th on Nielsen's chart, and it never charted again. Both of those things are true at once. Which one mattered in the room? We don't know, because nobody who was in the room has said. Disney and Marvel have not publicly explained the reversal. No statement, no reasoning, no figure. The next earnings call is days away. Its star, Yahya Abdul-Mateen II, wrote something short and gracious. That's life, right? And then, see you at the Emmys. So one of the few people who actually knows the details has spoken, and what he describes is a show killed after everyone had already said yes. If you want the stories behind the decisions Hollywood doesn't explain,